In the Nancy Guthrie case, the FBI released a brief clip. It doesn't show much action, but after spending 21 years in law enforcement, walking up on scenes, reviewing surveillance footage, and just learning how small behaviors can crack big cases, I can tell you this: sometimes the smallest movement tells the biggest story. And in this clip, there's something investigators immediately pay attention to: an attempt to obstruct the doorbell camera. First with a gloved hand, then stepping back, then scanning the ground, then picking up the shrubbery to try to cover the lens. Now, most people, they'll look at that and think, well, he tried to block the camera. But that's just surface level thinking, because what matters isn't that he tried, it's that how he tried. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Charles. Thanks so much for being here with me. And if you're returning, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to analyze behavioral contradictions, improvised concealment versus true planning, with 6 parts to the ongoing investigation to the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. So let's dive right on in. Let me just be clear. We're not declaring guilt. We're not concluding anything, and we're just analyzing behavior. And behavior, especially under pressure, it exposes sophistication level, preparation level, and sometimes inexperience. And this sequence tells us something very interesting. So the first part of this is true pre-planning looks different. Now, if someone had conducted deliberate surveillance on a home and identified a camera, true pre-planning would typically include bringing tape, bringing spray paint, wearing a face shield, although this person did wear a face mask, approaching from an angle, disabling the power beforehand. This structured planning, what we see here instead is hand over lens, stepping back, looking around, grabbing shrubbery. That's improvisation. Improvisation. That's a hard word for me to say, folks. You know, improvisation suggests something very specific. The individual did not arrive fully equipped to manage surveillance. Now, that doesn't tell us a motive, but it tells us something about preparation level. And part 2 of this is the gloved hand first. What does that mean? The gloved hand first. What does that mean? The first attempt appears that he used a gloved hand over the lens. That tells us he anticipated touching something that he didn't want his fingerprints on. He had at least minimal awareness for forensic risk, but covering a lens with your hand doesn't solve the problem long term. It's temporary, and that move feels instinctive, not engineered. And that is important. Part 3 is stepping back and searching the ground. You know, this is where most people miss the analysis. He steps back, he appears to scan the ground, he picks up shrubbery. This is what investigators call adaptive problem solving under pressure. That tells us that he encountered an obstacle that he didn't fully anticipate. He had to adjust in real time. He did not have a prepared solution here. That's not high level sophistication. That's reactive thinking. And reactive thinking often comes from someone who doesn't know what they don't know, meaning they understand that cameras exist, but they may not fully understand how surveillance systems work. Now, the fourth part of this is contradiction most people miss. The part that most people miss is what viewers won't think about. Now, the fourth part, the contradiction most people miss, most viewers, they won't even think about this. If this were fully premeditated at a high level, you would not expect improvised shrubbery. But if this were completely impulsive, you might not expect gloves. So we're seeing a contradiction here, some awareness, some preparation, and it's incomplete execution. In that behavioral mix, it suggests that not a career criminal level of planning, not complete ignorance either, but possibly someone operating beyond their depth, if you know what I mean. And that is a dangerous mindset. The fifth part of this is, does this suggest first-time behavior? We cannot declare that this was someone's first time, but we can say this: experienced offenders often demonstrate smoother execution. Less visible hesitation, less visible searching, more defined concealment techniques. Visible improvisation often suggests limited experience managing surveillance equipment. That it doesn't confirm history, but it informs investigators about behavioral sophistication. Now, the sixth part of this is what this really strikes me as. Here's what it says. This sequence suggests, from an investigative mindset, this looks like someone who understands cameras are a threat, but they may not fully understand how they operate. Someone who reacts to the obstacle instead of neutralizing it beforehand. That's what I mean when I say someone who doesn't know what they don't know. They don't recognize the risk, but they understand the complexity. And understanding complexity often leads to mistakes. Now, in the Nancy Guthrie case, we all want answers, but answers don't usually come from dramatic moments. They come from contradictions. Gloves suggest preparation. Shrubbery suggests improvisation. And that mix is very interesting because it may point to someone who understood just enough to be dangerous, but not enough to execute flawlessly. And in investigations, those contradictions are often where breakthroughs happen. Now, here's the part that matters to us, especially to us over 50. We live in a world where surveillance is everywhere. You have doorbell cameras, motion lights, and security systems, but visibility alone is not protection. Layered awareness is. And if you're over 50, you've worked too hard building your home, your peace, and your life, to ignore the small signs. Awareness isn't paranoia. It's wisdom earned through experience. And that's what this channel is about. If you appreciate calm, real world analysis instead of noise and speculation, subscribe to my channel. We focus on awareness, purpose, and protecting what we've built in this stage of life. And in the comments, don't speculate. Just tell me what behavioral detail stood out to you, because sometimes the biggest lessons, they come from slowing down and really just looking. So stay sharp, stay aware, and take care of all the people that you love. We will see you in that next video.